Welcome back to the Block Stretch Repair YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing the most important thing, repairing that radio. Here it looks like we have a possible fuse there. We have our little cabin light. I wonder what this switch is for. I'm not sure. I don't currently have the battery connected. Let's first, I guess, start at this fuse. We should really figure out where the speaker is. Found the speaker. Okay. Honestly, doesn't look all that bad. That's surprising. Don't know what's behind that grill. Maybe just temperature stuff for probably vacuum tube radio. I don't know. Let's check this fuse and go from there. Went ahead and removed the two screws from underneath the radio. I removed the knobs, and now I think we just removed these two nuts. And this top plate will come off maybe, and then maybe the whole radio will slide out the bottom. I don't honestly have any idea. And right here is our radio. This is our original tube radio. This thing is vacuum tube based, like I was originally guessing. And on the back here you can see that this is a Studebaker Philco model that. What's left of a wiring diagram, I was originally guessing. As you just saw, we have a problem. A mouse made a nest and ate through multiple layers of this coil. We're gonna try and repair it, but we might be dead in the water here. It's a Studebaker Philco model S-5527, and this is the transformer that was previously chewed by a mouse, ruining 4 layers deep worth of the coil. So I have rewound 4 layers of this coil. So let's put it back together with all of these pieces and see if it works. But we also got to do a lot more work before we can do that. Let's see if that was worth it. We need to also recap it first. I recapped a few of them, but then I realized that one's a 1600 and that one was 1000, and I didn't have those on hand. So I finally have those in hand now. Let's get this thing recapped and see if rewinding that was worth it. The front piece of this radio is a lot more difficult to recap. There's a lot of caps hidden in places and really tightly squeezed in. Okay, let's see if it works. It is fully back together. We've replaced all the caps. I won't be surprised if we have issues with the vibrator or possibly everything else, but let's slap 6 volts to it on a variable power supply and see if it wants to turn on. To test this speaker, we're going to use this function generator just to create a random signal that will send into this speaker, and if the speaker's good, the speaker will make a noise. Unfortunately, our speaker actually works, so it's not a simple speaker issue as to why this radio isn't working. Testing the vibrator, I can feel it vibrate when I first tap it, but my understanding of how these are supposed to work, it's not working. So I guess that's going to be the next thing we got to fix. Okay, I'm going to be honest, that is not what I was expecting to be on the inside of this vibrator. After checking some stuff with a multimeter, it appears we're suffering from the classic case of dirty contacts. So we're going to clean these contacts up a little bit and see if this thing wants to start working. Unfortunately, it is still not functioning. It is not doing anything. So unfortunately, I think our issue most likely has to do with probably that coil I rewound. It probably was damaged further down and I didn't realize it, so I could rewind it again, but I have a better option. I just won one of these at auction. It's in much worse condition. The glass is shattered, the buttons are going in all different directions, but I got it for 10 bucks, 20 bucks shipping. So once that arrives, hopefully we'll be able to smash the two together and get one functioning radio. It's in really, really rough shape. The glass is shattered, the buttons are all bent in wrong directions. But I should be able to hopefully use parts out of this one to fix mine. Interestingly, if I... Oh, that's smoke. That's not supposed to happen. Let's shut that off. If I kickstart the vibrator, it'll start up manual. Well, it'll start up with a kickstart. Otherwise, the vibrator doesn't do anything. I guess we need to figure out what just smoked because, well, it wasn't doing anything. So I'm going to guess whatever smoked might be related to our issue. Well, I ended up finding that I forgot to replace this capacitor right here on the edge, and better yet, I had already cut one side of it, so it wasn't actually even doing anything. Let's see what it does now that that's been replaced. So I looked at the document. It is supposed to draw about 7 amps, so apparently that is correct. So what I've done is I've actually swapped this bottom half from the other radio onto this one. I've recapped it already. I put my floppy vibrator in here, so hopefully this will maybe make a difference. I'm thinking maybe my coil I didn't rewind properly, so let's find out if this coil works or makes any difference at all. Apparently it works. Now the speaker is definitely blown, but it works. I didn't really think about the fact that it wouldn't do anything without an antenna. I figured I'd at least get static, but apparently not. Plugging an antenna directly into my fancy AM transmitter, it works. Again, the speaker's blown, but volume adjustment works. Now we need to make it so our vibrator automatically starts up. Now that we have this functional, we need to get it functional. We need to fix that vibrator so it actually starts up all the time and isn't floppy. And we also, more importantly, need to get the speaker to actually not be, well, completely blown. So, let's pull this apart one more time. I guess before I do that, we'll fix the vibrator, actually, and then we'll pull this back apart and see if we can fix that speaker. Basically, what this vibrator does is it takes your DC voltage and it vibrates it back, contacts back and forth, kind of making an alternating current. It's a really weird way of doing it. They make solid-state versions of this, but let's see if we can get the OG version working. Now, the reason this vibrator doesn't work is because when I adjust these contacts, I adjusted this one to be a little bit too far out. So if I actually bend that one in a little bit, it starts up. So what we need to do is just adjust this better. Now, whenever it's first turned on, the vibrator immediately starts vibrating. That's what it should be doing. Set up a quick amplifier, just to 100% verify this sound quality issue is the speaker, and it is. As you can see, the cone is all wavy, so that's probably what's causing our issue. This cone isn't even. You feel it? Yeah, it's a little bit not too centered with that coil, so we need to either rebuild this speaker or replace it. So I got the cheapest 6x9 speaker I could. It was like 15 bucks. The issue I'm running into is, one, I can't find shallow enough. This one's not shallow enough. I tried. And a lot of them come with multiple speakers on the inside here, which wouldn't work with how this one mounts up. So I'd have to get just a standard speaker like this with nothing in the middle, and it needs to be really, really shallow. Maybe we'll just recone this one. Let's try dissecting this one. It was 15 bucks. Maybe we can save the cone out of this, because a cone is going to cost me about the same as the speaker did. Okay, well, I got it apart. Here's our new thingamajig. I was able to take off all the old glue without damaging anything. What's amazing, coil is the same diameter, so that's awesome. A little bit more wire on this one, but I don't think that'll cause too many issues, so I think we'll be able to just trim this to be around the size of that original one, glue that in, and just glue this cone in, because it's also roughly the same height as the original cone. It's just this has a stupidly large magnet on the back where that one doesn't. That one just has a very small magnet. Now, I just stuck the new cone down using the old adhesive, so it's not actually permanently mounted yet. Quote-unquote permanently. If this works, then I know to actually properly attach this. So I've hooked it up to this little amplifier here so we can test to see if this sounds good enough. Considering it's being transmitted from that, I don't have a proper antenna. The wires are just kind of dangling across everything, so they are not really functional as antennas, but it definitely gets loud enough, because that's not even max volume, so eesh, doesn't sound very great at max volume, probably because that's not glued down properly, but yeah, I messed up when I did that. We'll have to stretch that out, get it perfectly centered, and glue it into place now. Now here's our filter cap. As you can see, there's 3 different caps inside here. Obviously, the chassis is your negative, and then looks like our square is our 20 at 350, 10 at 350 is our triangle, and I guess that's our square, and that's our triangle, and the unmarked one is the 20 at 25. So, what we're going to do is we're going to cut open this capacitor. So, we're going to put this in the lathe, cut a small sliver off this end here so we can take it apart and take out the guts and stuff some new caps on the inside. We're going to cut off all this old wax and basically tin foil and put modern caps on the inside here. Okay. Triple cap. Perfect. So I repainted some of this metal. I should say painted, because it actually was never painted. It was just raw metal, and that's why it rusted so bad. Now technically this part gets painted black, so we'll repaint that black, but the stuff was a little rusty, so I cleaned off the rust and repainted. Now this part, I only painted the top piece because I didn't want to repaint the actual model number of the radio. So I decided the best thing I could do is repaint this spot because it was pretty rusty. But I taped everything off on this, got that repainted that, and repainted this front piece. So now, hopefully, it'll look a little bit better, though you won't ever actually see it. I just need to repaint this grill here black because I do believe that sticks out under the dash a little bit. Set our coil gap. I put a piece of paper in there, so once we glue in our spider, I'll be able to pull out that piece of paper, and we should have a paper-sized gap all the way around the coil so it doesn't rub on the metal. So I've run into a slight problem. The speaker, when it's fully pressed down in here, it's actually too low, and the coil sits too far down to properly work. It needs to be lifted up some. So instead of using this roughly 11 millimeter thick spacer on top here, what I've done is I'm going to be 3D printing 2 sets of these 5 millimeter ones, one to go underneath, and then obviously one to pinch down on top. I didn't want to break out the larger printer, so I just printed them in 2 sections, but that should work. We'll have this section here on top, and there'll be a section underneath lifting the whole thing up to hopefully put the actual coil in the correct spot. Now, one of the last things we need to do is actually repair this. There's supposed to be a little friction disc in there. It basically acts as a clutch. So whenever you're turning it with the knob, it twists this entire assembly. But whenever you use one of the preset buttons, it pushes this out and spins this without, having to move the geared part. So we need to replace that friction disc as it's mostly missing and doesn't properly work anymore. Now I went ahead and took this to a bead blaster to clean it up a little bit, and now on the inside here we're going to use this little 3D printed TPU gasket here. This is basically just rubber that's 3D printed, and then I cut it so I could actually put it on, and we're going to put it on and glue it back to this copper, probably brass gear, and that should act as our clutch. There we go. Not pretty, but you won't see it, so who cares? And there we go. I'd say we successfully rebuilt this speaker. That sounds absolutely beautiful. Not gonna lie, when I first started this project, I figured I'd throw some new caps in it and we'd be good to go. Then I found that transformer was bad, and then I figured I'd be screwed until I found a parts radio, which I was, but I then did not expect to have to, rebuild an entire speaker. But here we are. As you can see, though, the black grill is looking fairly good. Not sure why. I'm not sure why half of it's painted black and half of it wasn't. If my guess is right, that part actually sticks out below the dash, and that's why, but I just copied how it was originally. Now, something somewhat hidden on this radio, on this side here, there's a knob that is not just the tuning knob. There's this part right here. Now, this part's actually broken on this radio, and I'm not going to bother fixing it because I have literally zero need to. But this switch technically allows you to switch between the front radio, the rear radio, the front speaker, the rear speaker, or both speakers. Right now it's set to all three of both speakers because obviously this radio has a speaker in it, but it actually has an out for another speaker that you'd have in the back of the car, and this here allows you to select whether you want the audio to come out of just the rear speaker, just the front speaker, or both speakers. But since this car doesn't have a rear speaker, I'm not going to spend the time in trying to recreate that. Unfortunately, my TPU clutch did not work. It was too slippery, which TPU is pretty slippery. So what I ended up using is a piece of heat shrink that I pre-shrunk and then cut down to size here, and it is a hell of a lot more grippy. So I'm going to let this dry up and get this reinstalled. Also went ahead and installed 2 new light bulbs in this radio since both of the original ones were bad. So hopefully those will light up now. And there we go, Studebaker radio. Now, obviously the chrome actually doesn't mount on here yet. This goes behind the dash, the chrome goes in front of the dash, but for now, so I don't lose the chrome, I put it on. Let's make sure it still works now that we've reassembled it. Unfortunately, I have to admit when I screwed up, and I very much screwed up. When I replaced this triple capacitor here, I put this wire onto here and somehow completely missed this wire, which is really bad. The wire that I put on this cap here is supposed to go to Earth, and this is the wire that's supposed to go there. I don't know, it was tucked over in here, so I didn't see it. So, I plugged it in, turned it on. Was sounding like it was working for a little bit, and then it went pop. So we definitely blew up a cap inside this, and that resistor definitely got cooked off to see if it still measures good, and we may have blown this tube. Awesome. Holy crap, I don't think I've ever seen a cap explode so violently. The cap, shut off perfectly. I'm not sure how it managed to do that, but that cap just is shredded. Okay, I should really stop working on this because it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm clearly stupid at this point, but I'm also wrong again. The wire does not go down there. Both wires were supposed to be on this pin. What actually happened after I sat down and actually took a break and looked at it is when I made this custom cap, I put the 25 volt cap where the 350 volt cap's supposed to go. We just spent 200 volts through a 25 volt cap. Yeah, no wonder that exploded so explosively. Let's rewire this correctly, and maybe it'll work. I verified our cooked resistor is actually still good, so we're gonna run it. They can hold a lot of heat before they actually burn through. It's a resistor. They get hot. So, let's put this back in, fix my electrical tape around that cap in case it explodes again. I'll be able to pull it apart, but let's see if I didn't screw it up again. And there we go. We have our functional radio. I just realized that the lights inside aren't working. I'm going to ignore that for right now. I'm not sure why that is, and it is 11 o'clock at night, and this video needs to be edited and uploaded by tomorrow, so that's not happening. But the radio is now fully functional. Now, you have to understand, that's my antenna. So I need to get a better antenna, so it'll probably sound a little bit better with a proper antenna. I'm also transmitting it from that, so maybe that's helping it. I don't know, but that, as my antenna, cannot. Now our switch here for our lows, mediums, and highs is functional, so that's awesome. Obviously our volume's functional, and our tuning knob is also functional. And these are also functional, so that is incredible. So we just need to figure out why those lights aren't working, but I'm not going to do that right now. But there we go. One restored 1955 Studebaker radio. We had to go so much more in depth with this radio restoration than I ever imagined. I gotta sort through, honestly, months of footage to figure out how to piece this video together, so that's gonna be real fun, because I started this project, realized the transformer was bad, tried to rewind the transformer, that didn't work, waited a while, found a parts radio, bought that, and then all of this mess, getting the speaker rebuilt, it has been a couple months on the process of trying to get the parts together to actually restore this. And we got incredibly lucky that that speaker I happened to buy on eBay for $15 actually matched up perfectly to this, because, well, it would have been so difficult to find a speaker that fit within these constraints. Like, this is your standard 6x9, and that would have absolutely never fit. Not only is it taller, but it's just so big. That would have been a nightmare to find a speaker that would actually fit inside there. And as I think I mentioned earlier in the video, I think I'll probably order a few more of these, because I got 3 more Studebakers, and I'm not sure all of them have radios, but at least a few of them do, and they'll probably need speakers as well. So I'm just gonna buy a few of these just to have as stock on hand. Because I know my luck, I won't, and then when I go to rebuild them, I won't be able to find... I'll order them from the same place, and they'll switch manufacturers or something, because, I mean, these are some cheapo speakers that were probably made in China. So they'll probably switch manufacturers on me, and they'll change the diameter of the coil or something stupid like that. And if you're trying to restore the exact same radio and trying to find documentation for it, you won't. You will, however, find documentation with the 1953 version of this radio, which is damn near identical, and you'll find all the paperwork you need for that, so do that. It's the same model number, just instead of 55, it's 53 at the beginning. So instead of 5527, I believe it's 5327. So, pretty simple. It is amazing how many amps this radio draws, but I guess it's at 6 volts. If you were to drop this up to a normal 12-volt radio, it'd be dropping like 3 amps, so I guess that makes sense. That still just seems absurd to see. Definitely not a radio you want to have running when you don't have the car running and the generator running, that's for sure. But if you like what you saw and you want to see more, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. That was a lot more complicated than I could have ever imagined.